industry. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're talking about, especially in HR, we're talking about the use of technologies such as machine learning, that's ML, predictive analytics, natural language processing, NLP, to help automate and perform HR tasks that are typically require human judgment. So what this would look like specifically for this particular conversation is that HR professionals and teams can use AI to streamline recruitment, payroll and benefits, administration, draft policies and documents and contracts, and provide real-time HR support to employees. This would enable data-driven decision-making for training, retention, workforce planning, you name it. But mostly, it's going to also help to reduce bias and improve the experience for both the candidates and employees. And candidates everywhere would love to have a better experience before they're able to join a company. So in this particular conversation that we are in today, that we're expecting our speakers to just speak on and give us knowledge on this, is that AI is no longer a futuristic concept of HR. It's here and it's changing how we find, how we screen talent, and how we hire the same talent that we are attracting. This can be very promising, and the speed and efficiency that it promises is very alluring. It also brings the risk and bias that we expect, especially because of the loss of the human touch. So for growing businesses in Africa, especially the challenge is clear. How do we embrace AI's power without compromising the integrity, diversity, and the quality of our hires? So if you're excited to see what this conversation is going to bring out in terms of that, then join in. So right now, if you have already joined us and you haven't dropped a chat to where you're joining in from, just go ahead, drop us your name. For example, Paula, WorkPay, I'm looking to learn about ABC. We'd be so excited to see where you're joining us from. It is my pleasure to introduce to you two fantastic guests that we have to help us navigate this. First, we have the CEO of Talent Safari, Ben Hyman, a leading talent matchmaking partner that combines tech with human expertise. And our second speaker is our guest HR leader, a global HR people and culture leader, Lillian Wanyweke, who has first-hand experience in using AI in recruitment. Welcome to you both. I'm going to give each of our guests to say something before we start. I'll start with you, Ben.
Thank you, Paula. Looking forward to the session. Nice to have everyone here. Yeah, as mentioned, my name is Ben. I'm the CEO.
We can't hear you, Ben.
Oh, sorry. You can't hear me at all? Wait, can you hear me now or not
Try
at all?
Again.
I'm speaking. Can you hear anything?
I can hear.
Let me chat you on that. Meanwhile, Lillian, you can take it.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining. My name is Lillian, and I'm excited to join this conversation around AI in the future of work and how we hire. And I'm looking forward to engage with this discussion. I'm a HR leader. I work in the nonprofit sector as a global people and culture partner, and I'm excited to bring this conversation to life as we navigate the AI adoption in our organizations. Thank you.
Hi. Are you able to hear me now, Paula, Lillian? Okay, I see a thumbs up. I'll take that as a yes. Yeah, my name is Ben. Nice to have everyone here. I'm the CEO of Talent Safari. We help startups and innovative companies across Africa to hire great talent for their teams. Yeah, back to you, Paula, if you wanna move ahead to the next part. You're on mute. Paula, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you for that. Sorry if I cut you off. Sorry guys, little bit of technical difficulties, but we sorted it out. Thank you so much to our fantastic speakers, Ben and Lillian, really amazing. Before we start off, I'd just like to roll out a poll. I really want to understand, for the ones that have joined, have you used AI in the role that we're talking about, especially for the ones who are already directly in the HR minefield, doing the recruitment, doing the HR processes? We'd like to hear that. So we're just going to do a short poll on that. And as we release the poll, feel free to just share with us your very authentic thoughts, because that's going to guide a lot of the conversation that we are going to have. So we're rolling out that poll now. And the question that I have for everyone to kick things off, basically, let's get a feel of what you think. In our first poll, we're asking, how much of a role does AI play in your recruitment process today? How much of a role does AI play in your recruitment process today? Do you use it heavily? Are you just exploring? Have you considered it, even if you haven't started? Or are you not using it at all? So while we're talking about HR, we really want to hear what that looks like for you specifically. We are waiting for that. Maybe you can also be dropping us a chat on who you are and also where you're joining us from, along with your job title. Okay. My team here is helping me with a few things. So if you have already seen the poll, I would like to know what your thoughts are. I want to get a feel of who in terms of AI, have you actually interacted with it? And I know mostly when you say about AI, a lot of people just know one thing, but I know you've interacted with more tools when it comes to technologies with artificial intelligence. So you can go ahead and give us a feel of what that looks like. So let's see the result. So the result is lovely. Thank you guys. 44% in the poll. I'd want more of us to get warm and contribute to this conversation. I believe there's much to gain for all of us. So I can see that the majority of us are just exploring it. That comes in with the larger percentage, followed closely by we are considering it, by haven't, and tied in with we use it heavily. That's really all I can see. More votes coming in. Lovely. So I want to know, have you explored it? Have you considered it? Have you started? What does that look like for you? Continue voting. I like the percentage that we are at right now. Love the percentage. Okay, we still have the winner as we are just exploring it. That's really good. It means anyone who has joined in right now, I'm going to publish the results so you can see what I'm seeing. So anyone who is joining in this particular call, a lot of you are just exploring the use of AI in recruitment process today. This is amazing news, guys. This is amazing. So as we get warmed up just to discuss it, you've already met our guest speakers. We have the CEO of Talent Safari. We have a global people and culture HR leader, Lillian, here, ready to just share with us the snippets of what their take is, given that in the real world or in the in the current situation that they're in at work, they are actively using these tools to help in their work efficiency and so on. So I want to just go ahead and now introduce us so we can get to hear Ben more. So Ben, I want to ask you, it's great that you're here. And as a talent partner, we see the full spectrum of AI being in use basically for companies that are embracing it for efficiency, while others are still grappling where it fits. The reality is that AI tools are everywhere now. So from simple screening of CVs to complex predictive analytics on where they should be looking for talent, where they should be improving their processes. I'd want to know from your particular perspective, given that you're in the talent space, how do you see AI fundamentally changing how African businesses source and screen talent?
Sure. Yeah, I guess there's two answers to that. In the long run, there's people building AI tools in basically every part of that process, in the sourcing, in the vetting, there's even AI interviewers now. Like, there's people building all of these things. I think what's interesting to figure out is which of those is it going to be possible to adopt in the short term, and which of them it's going to
Ben,
take a
can you
lot
hear me?
longer. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, can like Lillian or yeah. Yeah, so I'm saying in the short run, I think there's a lot of interesting kind of, in the long run, I think all of these areas people are working on, but in the shorter term, I think there's some that are maybe more easy to leverage AI for. So I think particularly, I guess, in the startup space versus in more traditional industries, there's just better data available for these things. So people are more likely to have LinkedIn profiles. They're more likely to kind of put their information online in order to be able to search. And so there's some exciting tools called like Juicebox or Endorse, which will help you source your candidates. A lot of ATS systems now have kind of AI screening for CVs. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And then I think also just on the day-to-day, really anyone in any job ought to be using, ChatGPT or Gemini to do a lot of these more mundane tasks that they might have to do, whether it's drafting a JD or doing something else. I think you can just save a whole lot of time using these models to do that. And I don't think there's basically any barrier to entry to at least start getting onto that rung of the ladder. And then some of these more sophisticated HR specific tools maybe follow on from that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ben, for highlighting that. Just to add on or to build on to the question, I'd want to understand what are some of the impactful AI tools you've seen in the real world of hiring? Any specific examples that you could quote?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, as I was saying, the basic ones, which I think actually do a lot of this stuff, is just ChatGPT. But specific tools, I think for sourcing talent, Juicebox and Endorse are very interesting in terms of like AI search tools for talent. I don't think they're probably as good in Africa as they might be if you were doing it in London or San Francisco, just because of the data. And then on the vetting side, some of the better applicant tracking systems are incorporating AI CV screening and that kind of thing into that process. I personally use Ashby and think it's really good, and they have a emerging markets discount and pretty reasonable pricing. So that would probably be my recommendation. But I think there's quite a few ATS systems on that side. Other spaces like AI interviewers, I'm not sure it's as far along in the process. So I don't know if there's something I would recommend on that side.
Thank you, Ben, for that. Just one last question to build up on everything that you've said. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for HR teams when it comes to leveraging AI for efficiency and scale?
Sure. I think like it depends where you're at in the process. If you're currently using no AI, your company probably is either on Microsoft or Google. You will have free access to Gemini or Bing or one of these AI models. Start using it for the basic stuff to begin with. Help write your JDs on there, check stuff, do that basic stuff. Then I think the next level is you have to, convince whoever's holding the budget strings to get some of these more sophisticated tools. And that's, I think, AI for sourcing or AI for candidate screening. I think probably candidate screening would be the most applicable to everyone. Find an ATS system that is able to, take the 1,000 applications you're getting and cut it down to the 50 that are relevant and score them so you know which ones to look at. And that could save you, 2 days of your time reviewing all those applications, as well as letting you get back to everyone, email them in good time, etc. So I think kind of if you're looking for immediate steps to take after this call, that would probably be my advice. If you're not using ChatGPT, start using it. And if you already are, then look at how you can incorporate some of these systems that are using AI in a more structured way.
Great insight. Thank you so much, Ben, for that. Apologies for that on my side, bit of technical issues, but thank you for that. So as we move on, just to understand also from Lillian, again, being a global HR people and culture leader, I'm sure that there's so much that you have also interacted with at work. So as someone on the ground, I can tell you that AI basically has made a lot of changes. But can you, Lillian, tell us from your perspective what that has looked like in terms of your daily interaction with AI when it comes to HR, specifically in hiring?
Right, thank you so much. And you have just alluded how the shift has been happening, and we can see a lot of embedding of AI in the different HR processes. As Ben had started alluding, we can see a lot of adoption of AI, especially on the ATS systems, where we use a lot of ATSs to screen candidates. And that is a big aspect of our utilization of AI, and especially making our hiring processes more efficient, and we are able to move at speed and scale. Then we also see a bit of, these other tools like some of our service providers like Microsoft. We have this Copilot, and we were talking about Gemini. It depends with the service provider you're using. So we are seeing such tools that are embedded also in calendars. You can be able to use AI to schedule interviews. You can check availability of your panelists, and you can be able to even draft emails with them to invite candidates. They are also embedded in the systems. We're also using them to also check some of our JD writing, and you can ask even some questions like, is it this JD, does it have some bias? Is it readable for somebody who has some aspects of, divergency in terms of neurodivergency? So you can try to look and prompt the systems to help you to tailor make some of these documents for hiring. And then if you go to these other processes, let's talk about chat boxes. And then we embed them in some of our systems where the candidates can, internal staff can query, they can ask questions about some processes, how to access some documents, where they are. queries around their payroll, a policy, a procedure. These chat boxes have really made these aspects very efficient for us. We are also using AI in a bit of document management, and sometimes in HR we have to review a lot of large data sets and large documents. And if you're preparing for a meeting or a conversations, you can also be able to use AI to help you to to tease out what are the key points in some documents. And we have not moved to these advanced systems like performance management, where we're tracking data and performance to to predict trends and all that. We are yet to get there, but I think for mundane tasks like recruitment, screening, meeting summaries, writing JDs, chatting, these are the things we have started adopting AI. Thank you, Pauline. Paula.
Thank you so much, Lillian, for that. Amazing. So even as we are, just to build up on that, basically, again, Lillian, I'm still with you. Could you share a specific win you've had using AI in your recruitment process that you feel would contribute to us understanding the real importance of having such technologies in our processes, especially for hiring?
Yeah. Okay. I had alluded one of where we are embedding a lot of AI in the systems is through the ATS system. What we are seeing right now in the current market, I don't know whether it's from my perspective, but the moment we are not having challenges with sourcing candidates, but we are having challenges with screening, because what is happening in the market is that we are getting a lot of applications, and the challenge has always been, how do we move forward with screening to ensure that you're getting the right fit for a specific role. Remember, as much as we are talking about organization adopting AI, also the candidates are also adopting AI, and they're able to tailor make the applications to mirror what is happening in the JD. They're able to even make faster applications than before. And of course, right now we can see availability of posts. People are able to job search jobs all over the world. So we are able to attract a large pools of applicants in the systems. So the challenge has always been for the hiring teams, how can we make our process efficient? How are we able to screen? So with the right screening criteria, which are embedded in the ATS system, we are able to see through AI and ATS algorithm to be able to screen candidates faster and efficiently, and extend it to the other aspects of the recruitment. So this is where I see a lot of heavy reliance on the recruitment process around the screening and the scoring criteria of these large pools of talent that is making applications. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much for that. I would like to also ask, what do you feel is a practical example, especially now that you're talking about something you've interacted with at work, where you have seen an example of risk or a bias you've had to manage when using AI for hiring? Because based on your experience, you're seeing a lot of candidates applying with the volumes. It's very difficult, and AI would make this efficient. But then how do you see yourself navigating a risk or a bias that would come from such a practice?
Yes. From my end, I've picked out three things which I'm grappling with in terms of risk and bias. One is the challenge of authenticity of the profile. So as I alluded, there's a lot of adoption of AI, and people are able to mirror what is expected in a role. And when you get them on the other side, you have a question, how authentic are these profiles? Because we see also AI being able to produce a lot of fabricated materials, overstated resumes. So we need to move just beyond a resume to the skills-based hiring. And so that's a biggest challenge for the hiring teams, is to know which out of these profiles can fit what we are looking for. So that's one of the risks I see in the recruitment. And then we can also see a lot of the hiring managers' acceptance rates of using AI is still low. Sometimes you can send profiles or some tests or screening that have been put in the system. Let's talk about the written test, and the hiring managers can pick out this is AI generated. And the question has been, how do we balance utilization of these tools, because also the candidates are using them, and also the hiring managers, how are they able to accept that this is the new reality? How can we be able to screen better? How can we be able to discuss and shift our mindset to see how best can we be able to leverage on AI on what the candidates are, the output of the candidates, but also accept that this is the reality and we are able to screen better. So I see a lot of challenges with the hiring manager saying, I cannot interview these people because I think their materials is AI generated. So there's a bit of challenge there, and it's a conversation we can continue doing. What I'm seeing also organizations doing is that they are developing criteria saying that if a specific role requires AI fluency, we can allow use of AI even in the recruitment process and the testing and all that. So they are okay for candidates to use AI in their testing and screening. But if there are roles which they do not require a lot of AI fluency, then you can see hiring managers saying they do not want to see any profile that has produced information that is AI generated. So this is the other aspect. And then the other aspect with the systems, especially, is the opaqueness of the systems. I have always seen conversations in the social medias, and especially LinkedIn, people saying, I applied for this job and within 5 minutes I was given a regret. And then the question has always been, what was it? What was it about my application? So what we are seeing is that even as we embed the ATS systems, it's still not very clear what are some of the criteria some of the system might, there are algorithm behind the system that used to screen the candidate. Of course, for the hiring teams is always a criteria where we put like, this is a scoring sheet, this is the screening questions. But when you get the output, sometimes you wonder, how did the system rate these candidates high and these ones lower? So there's a bit of that opaqueness, which can bring some biasness and risk for us when we are trying to think, are we missing out some of the candidates along the recruitment process? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. I think you brought out also a gap that needs to be addressed in this conversation, and that looks like, what do you feel your team needs to know now that they didn't know before, especially to adopt some of these AI tools? Like you say, the biases that sometimes also the tools will have and disqualify maybe candidates prematurely, and things like that. How are you equipping your team? Or at least what are some of the skills that you feel teams should have now to be able to adopt the AI into their hiring?
I believe that's on my end. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think in terms of being in the recruiter, being a recruiter on the HR team, we need to be a bit curious also on what is happening. So a bit of curiosity on what is happening in the AI arena. We are not going to be left behind. A lot of digital fluency because it requires a bit of being in the digital space. We are not just saying AI is an issue of IT departments or whatever departments. This is an enabler for the organization, and it's going to shift how we do our processes, whether it's HR, finance, IT, and what have you. So HR, in terms of our skills, we need to ensure that we are curious enough on what is happening in the AI space, and then we embrace our skills and upskill into data literacy and data fluency. Then the other aspect we need to think about is our role shifting to be more ethical, to be all the ethical considerations we need to put in mind. And in one of our conversations in our organization, because we are doing an AI, we are doing co-pilot, it's called piloting. We're piloting co-pilot. Yeah. So one of the things we are trying to do is that our role will shift to be more of data protection and ethics, because we need to put these guardrails of confidentiality, ethics, and safeguards organization, and how, because AI, we are using a lot of data, we are getting a lot of data, how can we continue to ensure there is confidentiality and data protection of our subjects? And because also the regulations and the legislations have really evolved across the world, whether you're talking about globally the GDPRs or when you're talking about our local data protection acts. So there's a lot of an aspect, because we are also data processors. How can we ensure we continue to guard the organization in terms of aspects of data and confidentiality and ethical judgment of our processes? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lillian. Amazing points there. So I see that you had already run our second poll and a lot of you have already voted. So just to reiterate the question, we were asking, what do you believe is the biggest risk of over-relying on AI in hiring, either as a candidate or even in HR space where you're actively using the tool? So the options we had is, 1, amplifying existing biases, 2, losing the human touch in recruitment, 3, filtering out highest potential candidates who don't fit the norm, or all the above. And I really like what you guys have voted for. So I'm just going to go ahead and publish so you can see even as I'm showing you. So I see a lot of you believe that losing the human touch in recruitment is the highest risk or the biggest risk that we face. Shortly after, you feel like all the above, amplifying, losing the human touch, and filtering out the potential of a candidate that doesn't fit the norm. So this is interesting, very interesting. Then I hope you're preparing yourself for the next questions that are going to come as we go along. So I think that really brings us nicely into the next point, where I want us to discuss about the irreplaceable role of HR, or the human touch in HR. So this conversation, again, I'm just going to allow both Ben and Lillian to be able to guide us. Both of them touched on the human factor, and I want us to dig a bit deeper, right? Lillian, can you share a time when human judgment had basically overrode an AI-driven decision that you can remember?
All right. Yes, I will again share very case scenarios of when we're using our systems to screen candidates, and at some point, you are recruiting for a position and you have come up with, the system has sieved and has given you a list of 30 candidates who are best fit for this role, and this is the list you want to share with the hiring manager. But when I went through the CVs and looking through this type of profiles, I was looking through and I can see, I don't think they are really resonating to what we are trying to look for this role. And my aunt, and I was asking, could it I have missed something in along the way? And one of the challenges we have always had in some of our recruiting teams is, even when we are putting these screening criteria, if you do not put the right criteria, you will get an output that is not sufficient. And so I could see these candidates have been rated very highly, but when I look at the actual profiles, I do not feel like they really align to what you're looking for. And as I was thinking through about this process, for me was to decide, and of course I flagged it to the hiring manager. I do feel like we still have left out some of the strongest profile perhaps in the system, and it would be good for me to go back. And once I went back to look through from my human judgment, I was able to pick out more stronger profiles which were better fit for this role than the ones that were already sieved by the system. The lesson that was learned from this experience was that as much as we are relying on the systems, it's good to also put the human aspect on the output of the process or the system, so that you can be able to validate whether you're getting the right output or not. So that has always been my mantra, to double check to see whether is there anything that is really missing out from this profile, and is it that I can validate confidently this is what I feel it can proceed going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Lillian. Amazing example. I'm sure it's something a lot of HRs in the room could also resonate with, given the challenges you mentioned with the algorithm, sometimes being a bit off when it comes to screening. So Ben, I want to pull you in as well and get your perspective. As a talent partner, why does relationship building and context remain critical even with powerful AI tools? And I'm bringing this in because we talk about the human touch, or at least the HR being irreplaceable when it comes to hiring. So, what's your take on that? What does relationship building and context remain so critical in this process?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's probably a few things to say here. The first is like the AI can only make decisions based on the data that it has. So even if it's incredible at processing that, whatever it is, reading the CVs and making a decision, if all it's got is the CV, it just has a lot less information than a human being would have. If you're someone who has met the candidate and interacted with them, if you know the company they used to work for and what its reputation is, if you know who they previously worked with and can get referrals from them and understand, you just have a lot more information to go on when making that decision. And like an AI tool is not able to replicate that. So I think there's still a huge amount of human judgment that is not replaceable. And more generally, actually, would say for HRs in Africa, that is even more the case. Like even in the startup space, people often don't have that much data online. But if you're trying to hire in manufacturing or many of these traditional sectors, these people don't have LinkedIn profiles, they don't have online profiles. Like the only way you're going to find them is through human contact and relationships and so on. An AI tool is going to be useless. So that's kind of what I think it comes down to, is if this information can't go into the AI tool to begin with, it's not going to be able to use it to make the decision. And so then whatever decision it does come out with is kind of going to lack all of this important context that an HR or a hiring manager will be able to have from kind of their other interactions and their networks and so on.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I love that you brought out the aspect for when it comes to recruitment. It's not just about the application. Sometimes it's also about having, to go out of the norm to find the talent. When you talk about, it's not just found in the applications. You'd have to maybe build a relationship with a candidate and even be able to spot them as a talent for the kind of role that you're hiring. That's really amazing. So I would go ahead and maybe nudge us into the conversation where I want to understand, maybe let us discuss what are the key competencies that HR professionals need to develop to be effective in an AI-driven hiring world. I believe, Lillian, you covered a bit about this, but maybe we can hear from Ben, and then we can now move to you in terms of the perspective on the competencies that HR need to have or develop in this new world that we're stepping into for AI-driven hiring world.
Sure. Yeah, I think the first one, which I kind of already said, like you've got to be using it. Yes, for the more structured enterprise tools or so on, someone in the company has to decide to buy it and implement it, and there's all those barriers. But for the more basic tools of just using ChatGPT or Gemini or one of these tools, anyone can do that. And if you're not doing, keep doing what you were doing, but each day you're kind of getting gradually more and more left behind by someone who's able to kind of be more productive, get more stuff done, and is learning at the same time, so that when that new thing comes out, they're going to be aware of it, they're going to know how to use it. So that would be my first thing, is if you're not currently using AI for tasks, like force yourself to use it for some stuff. Even if you're fine writing your JD on your own, or you're fine doing your sourcing on your own, try out, see if AI can help you with it. Try something new on that every day, and I'm pretty sure after a couple of weeks, you're going to have a lot of stuff that you're not doing on your own, and AI is helping you be a lot faster. So that would kind of be my core thing. If you're not already going, the next step after that is, as I say, like how can you put it into the systems and the workflow of the company as a whole? So can you get an applicant tracking system that's AI candidate review, or can you use AI for sourcing? For that, obviously, yeah, it's going to cost money. There's stakeholders to convince and so on. But if you really do want to push this, like do your own research, test these tools out, present it to your management of kind of, this is going to save this much time. We're going to get better candidates. I really think this is worth trying. And then, yeah, see if you can implement those systems at a company-wide level or at a department-wide level, so that you can increase kind of everyone's productivity with these tools. But yeah, that's kind of the two levels. But my real emphasis would be, you personally, like straight after this call, you can start doing more with AI than you were beforehand. Those institutional blockers don't have to prevent you from at least getting started and learning the things that you can easily improve and save time on.
Okay, great. So the major takeaway being AI literacy being a key competence that HRs should at least develop in the future and now going forward. Thank you so much, Ben. Maybe we can now also, Lillian, you can also share your perspective on the same.
Sure.
I believe we already echoed it before, but just to reiterate.
Yes, I think I had mentioned, being curious, being adaptable, just know what's happening. So plugging in areas where there's AI conversation, so that you keep with the trends of what is happening. So that curiosity will really help you to continue to upskill. I can see a lot of organizations also, the different stages of adoption and piloting. And so I had mentioned that HR should not be left behind. So ensure that you are sitting in that table, be in the table where discussions around AI and automations are. Be curious on what the vendors are providing you, ask questions. What are these processes that have been embedded in our systems now, and just get to know what is happening in the AI areas. I think also the aspect of change management will be important for even HR to know how to help organization navigate the change closely with the leaders. So it's also the human aspect as well, to ensure that we are helping the organization navigate the change and automation and the adoption of AI, and as well, helping the organization create psychological safe spaces where people, of course, there's a lot of fear of what AI will do to jobs, and the workforce is a bit hesitant with the change that might come. So it's good for HR to be aware of all these change management models and help the organization to move to the future. And the future has AI in that space. So yeah, I cannot overemphasize what we have already discussed, but be in the HR space, in the AI space, just understand what is happening in that space and plug in as a key contributor in that discussion. Thank you.
I like that you've led us to the next point that I would want us to discuss, which is pretty much looking ahead. If you had to advise a fellow HR leader today on how to future-proof their skills for an AI-driven world, the first thing that you would tell them, I've seen you echo that in bits and pieces of everything that you've said, but let's say you just had to use a one-liner on what they need to get on to make sure that they stay ahead.
Yes.
Still on.
Yes. AI is not all doom. That's what I would say. I think the fear has always been, and I had started alluding that, AI is coming to take all our jobs. Where will we be? And where will, the future and the security of jobs is not assured. But I would just say it's not just doom. We need to look at opportunities that might come with AI. Of course, we might have some of the jobs that will phase out, but I believe we still have an opportunity where this space will give us to new jobs, new technologies, new skill sets that are needed. And I think once we get to that space of future, we need to ensure that we we are cognizant that it will bring us more opportunities than just the doom that has been sold to us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for highlighting that there's a fear behind it. I do feel like it's important to recognize what a lot of professionals might be struggling with. So yes, the fear is there, but you're urging them to push on. Ben, maybe you could also build onto the same in terms of how do you feel, how would you advise a HR leader to future-proof their skills for the AI-driven world that we are already in or walking into?
Sure. Yeah. I my first more pessimistic point is I probably would have a little bit of the fear that your job might be, or at least there might be kind of reduce the demand for the same number of people doing things with that productivity. I think on the flip side, there will be lots of new other jobs that are coming with it. So I think doesn't have to just be the fear side, but I think it probably is sensible to expect a lot of change in the job market and what things are in demand. And so making sure you're adaptable and you have more general skills and you're able to look for new opportunities rather than I just think kind of thinking this job exactly the way I'm doing it currently is still going to be here in 10 or 15 years time. That might not be the case. There will definitely still be people whose jobs is managing talent and helping companies to hire people and figuring out the regulations, but exactly what that will look like and how that will change is a bit harder to predict exactly. So maybe the two high level pieces of advice, one is kind of what I've already said, use these AI tools, and then you're going to be the person who's kind of managing the AI tools across a broader department or something because you have that expertise. And the second would be being as adaptable and forward looking as you can. I think look at the world in a way where you know things are changing more rapidly than they usually do in these spaces. And so I need to make sure that when that kind of new wave of technologies comes, a new wave of things, I'm trying them out first, I'm adapting them, and kind of being ahead of the curve on this, and also willing to change exactly what it is that you're doing. You know, if your job is primarily sourcing candidates, say, it might be that that's an area that it turns out AI can do really well, but interviewing or doing background checks or stuff, it's not so good at, and there's a lag. And so you need to make sure you're able to switch over, focus more on that side and that kind of thing. So more directly, use the AI tools as much as you can, and also be as adaptable as possible because there's going to be a faster pace of change to what skills are in demand and what jobs are available than there usually is in the job market.
Thank you for that, Ben. Just to echo, you've talked about one, be adaptable, two, use AI tools as much as possible. But I'm sure just like we are talking about this, and you're also advising the so-called HR leader, we would still have an elephant in the room where it's a big misconception in the HR space, and maybe they have a big misconception. And how do we correct it? Given that you're already in this space, I'm sure that you have insight on the same. Maybe we can start with you, Ben, and then we can go now to Lillian.
Sure. I think so. If it's just a general misconception about AI, I think the one which maybe relates to our Q&A question before actually is in terms of the bias. I think there definitely is a risk that you might, miss some candidates if they're being auto-rejected or whatever by the AI tooling and so on. But I think there's a lot of kind of talk about, using these AI tools, they're going to introduce these biases to the hiring process, and there's a big risk there. I actually, if I had to guess, probably the AI tools are going to be less biased than human beings on assessing these things. They're less likely to have those. They're reading the full CV rather than kind of glancing for 10 seconds because of the time pressure. And so actually, I think if those tools are able to narrow down to the relevant candidates, and then a human is able to kind of dedicate more time to properly reviewing those people's profiles and assessing, my guess would be like on average, most companies, the level of bias and number of kind of mistakes and missed CVs should be being reduced. Of course, there are going to be exceptions, and if your AI systems, calibrated really badly, you're not a fit or something, that's going to go wrong. But like from what I've seen, and if used properly, I would think this is actually a way to reduce bias in hiring processes, and reduce the number of great candidates being missed.
Great, thank you for that, Ben. So just to echo that, you're talking about a way to make sure that for them they properly use this tool so that it produces the kind of results that would reduce on the bias and give them better quality of work because of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, like, I guess to give a concrete example, if you're an HR, you've got 2,000 applications for this job. Currently, I would guess what happens in a lot of companies is you only review, 300. You find a few good people, and you don't have time to get to all of the others. I think if you're using a tool that can rule out the ones who aren't a fit and get you down to like, here's 50 or 100 candidates that are worth reviewing, and then spend more time, reviewing those properly in detail, I think you're going to end up like the HR save time, the company's more likely to get the best candidate, and there's probably going to be less bias relative to, you're going through your clunky ATS system, just looking at name and job title and ruling people in and out based on that or something. So yeah, my overall is I actually think I would hope AI is going to be reducing bias in hiring rather than increasing it.
Thank you for that. So if you have any questions, our audience, just go ahead and drop it in the question and answer, the Q&A, so that we can be able to address it. And as you're dropping in your questions, which we will address at the end of the session, Lilian, maybe you can just also give us your perspective on the biggest bias and how do we correct it as well.
I think for me, not just in hiring, but generally in the use of AI, what I've seen a lot of professionals is that they're not confident to come out and say, I'm using AI, I'm leveraging on AI, because of this misconception of where when you use AI, you are not using your human judgment, and you're not creative, issues of critical thinking. So what I've always seen is even when you get to a laptop somewhere, somebody who is using AI, they just close in what they were doing on AI. So we have not created a safe space where people are confident to use these tools and confident that they will not be judged not to be more creative, nor not smart. Yeah, so I think when it comes to now AI adoptions, we need to create such an environment or a culture of adoption where people do not feel a bit judged because of using AI tools, but we can say that we are using AI tools to leverage on what we are doing and helping us to make better documents, conversations, or decisions out of it. But the guardrail we need to put here is that people need to understand that whatever is in AI is not always 100% correct. So you still need to use a bit of human judgment and a lesser eye to verify the outputs of AI. But I think professionals should be in a space where they feel they are confident to use the tools without being judged.
I'd love to actually add. Oh, sorry, if I can add on, yeah, I completely agree with Lillian's point, and I think part of the problem maybe is some people who use AI and then don't check the outputs and produce bad stuff. They're giving a bad name to the people who are using it properly and kind of saving some time, but making sure they actually read through what they're sending and they're not making those basic mistakes. But yeah, I think companies that want to embrace this should be encouraging people to use AI, and maybe in the startup space, which I'm mostly interacting with, there's a lot more openness. But yeah, I think in more traditional companies, I can see there's some of that stigma, and it's a shame because they're missing out on much more productive employees.
Very true, very true. Thank you so much, Lillian and Ben, for that. Now back to our audience. I would like to know, for those who are listening in, would you like to learn more about hiring the smart way? So we're just going to release that poll so you can also give us your vote so we hear what you're also thinking about this. The smart way, obviously, given the conversation, is about AI and using such tools in your hiring practices. So go ahead and just place your votes as we are winding up the session. Please remember, if you have any questions, you can just drop that in the Q&A and the question and the answers section, and we will be able to address it, where we give some to Ben and some to Lillian just to help us in fully understanding it. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the question and answers. I can see that we have quite the turnout today. We have the Group HR and Culture Manager joining from Spain, for the US and West African Remittance Company. Thank you so much. We see a talent acquisition lead, talent acquisition, Mr. Owira, joining us. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. I can see there's a question here. Maybe Ben, you can go ahead and answer this. We have a question from Lolwe AI and Robotics Studio, and it's about to hire 4,700 new staff in the following categories. And that's in network engineering, project management, startup fund management, hackathon operations. And he would like to know which AI HR solutions will be suitable for talent sorting and management. I believe, Ben, you can share with us your answer on that.
Sure. Yeah. I think on this one, if you're doing that much volume in hiring, like you're going to need systems to filter through. You're going to get everyone imaginable who's looking for a job applying, and you need to get it down to those who are suited. So if it was a system, like I personally use Ashby and think it's very good, and you can set up a flow of qualifying questions of if people don't meet certain fixed criteria, they're moved out of the flow of applicants, and then use AI applicant review to check the suitability on the more qualitative stuff. So I like that, but I also think actually if it's a one-off, you could probably build something like that using NA10 or Google Forms, like some structure of automations where you're taking in the applicants, you're doing these knockout questions, you're reviewing. My key piece of advice is make sure there's a system that gets you past a human being having to look at every single CV that's getting submitted into the system, or yeah, you're probably going to be there for months to get through all of those.
Thank you for that, Ben. A question for you, Lillian. From Kano, Nigeria, Aliyu is asking, how can someone use AI to select the best candidate? I believe we've echoed that throughout the conversation, but maybe you can just wrap that up for us. And then one more question before we can release something.
Yes, and I think I'll build on Ben, what he has talked about. Organization, you can work with systems that are able to, screen around the candidates in the different phases. So in adoption of AI and ATS systems, it will be good to start there and see where you can automate that process of screening and then and scoring the candidates, as well as some of the ATS systems are able to help us to passively look for the best candidates in certain markets. So I would say it's adoption of ATS systems that are able to help you to first the screen well based on your criteria and quality of the hire you need, but also you can also explore some of tools and systems that can be able to help you to search for candidates in different aspects of the market. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lillian. Amazing session, both to you, Lillian and Ben. So just before we're able to wrap it up, maybe Ben, we can just give the show over to you to give us more information about what Talent Safari does and how you help set up communities in Africa when it comes to talent management and hiring.
Sorry, I was on mute. Can you guys see my screen okay? Um, okay, perfect. I see a thumbs up. Great. Yeah, I'll do the quick overview here just so everyone kind of understands what Talent Safari is about. Basically, we help startups and innovative companies across Africa hire great mid-level talent for their teams. Kind of high level, we're part of Tech Safari, which is a media company in Africa. They have 60,000 plus subscribers and newsletter readers across the continent. And so we're really leaning on that reach and brand name and community in order to find the best talent for these roles. The core promise is within 2 weeks, we'll be finding you 3 to 5 high quality vetted candidates for your role. So you'll come to us, sit down, discuss it, and then within that 2 week turnaround, we'll be finding those candidates for you and actually trying to get you first candidates within a couple of days from kicking off. And then we charge on success, and we also have a 90-day probation period guarantee. So if in the first 90 days this person's fired or they decide to leave, we'll help you find a replacement for free, or we'll be refunding you. I won't go through this whole thing, but basically, yeah, in terms of the process, kickoff, sign a contract, sourcing and vetting, sharing those candidates over, interviews on your side, and then hopefully success. And then just to give you a sense of some of the great companies we've been working with, particularly for those in the startup space, and I'm sure you'll recognize some of those. We've got kind of big fintechs in South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, and beyond. And then, yeah, if someone thinks this is great, this is what my company's looking for, then head over to our website. It's probably the easiest place. That's talentsafari.io. And you can just click on the inquiry form there. That will go straight to my inbox, and I'll reach out to you, and we can have a call to chat. But yeah, basically, if you're a startup or a fast moving company looking for support on hiring, then we'd be happy to help. And we're also very, very pleased to be partnered with WorkPay on that side. I've actually used them before at my previous company and really enjoyed their products. And so, yeah, it's great to be partnered to kind of help support some of the companies growing across Africa to find great talent, onboard them, get their processes right, do the whole of your HR processes in a really efficient, high quality way.
Thank you so much, Ben, for that. For our audience, this was a partnership webinar with Talent Safari to help and enable businesses and organizations like yourself to make better hiring decisions. We're carrying you with us as we step into the future and just making sure that you understand what is out there in the market, how to better improve the quality of your work and your team and your HR processes. So just to recap some of the key insights, AI offers immense efficiency and scale, but it does come with risks. The human factor obviously is irreplaceable. Judgment on context, relationship building are still what makes hiring effective. So if you're a HR professional and you need to future-proof your skills by becoming AI literate and more strategic, then this conversation has obviously built your resolve on that. So you who's going after this particular conversation, we want you to come to us if you're a high growth African business looking to navigate the complexities of talent and HR. WorkPay and Talent Safari are helping companies to do just that by combining scalable technology with human expertise. So we invite you to reach out to us. Ben has already shared how you can get in touch with him. With us, you can be able to reach us through marketing@myworkpay.com, and we would be able to take you through our tailored solutions. So what I'll leave for our guests, maybe Lillian, you'll give us a parting shot, and the same to Ben, and then we can close it.
Yeah, well, we say that all this conversation around AI, we are not looking to replace the human skills, but we are just going to use AI for enablement. And I hope as we had this discussion and looking into the future, we'll take out the lessons that we have carried today, and we can be able to leverage of this technology as it shapes our modern working spaces and practices. Otherwise, thank you so much for this discussion. It was really insightful, and we enjoyed to engage with all of you.
Perfect. On my side, I think I might go for more of a call to action. Yeah, if you're on this call and you're like, I've never tried AI tools, or I'm not using them much for work, as soon as you log off, go and log into one, try it out, think of something you did today at work, and figure out a way to speed it up with an AI tool, and then keep going from there. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and I'm sure if you're coming to these webinars, if you're looking to learn, you're probably already on the front edge of that, but there's always kind of plenty more to learn and to do. And so I hope people will go out and give it a try. And then, yeah, also thank you so much to WorkPay and to Paula and Lillian. It's been a great session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much to everyone who has stayed with us from even before the beginning of the webinar to now as we are leaving for home. And thank you so much just for joining and being part of the future of making better hiring decisions using AI in your organization, and even way later in terms of automation of the tasks such as HR and payroll. WorkPay is here for you. Just thank you so much, and everyone can just leave at their own leisure, and we were happy to have you. Thank you.